Have you ever wondered where racehorses come from? Behind every champion on the racetrack lies a world of breeding, bloodlines and bold dreams.
Welcome to the Bloodstock Files, where we uncover the stories, the skills and the science that shape the future of horse racing.
Coming up in this episode, we visit the famous Whitsbury Manor Stud to catch up with the team behind stallion sensation Havana Grey.
And we'll be rounding up all of the action from the European yearling sales season,
along with an unmissable interview with one of the leading racehorse breeders.
Our only rule is, are we excited to stand this stallion, whether we're onto something we really believe in.
The sky is the limit was unbelievable. It's a day I'll never forget anyway, never forget.
You can't not have fun, you know. I say to the guys, we have to have fun, we have to enjoy what we're doing.
To breed a horse like that, you know, and all the dreams are still in front of us. So there'll be a lot of box walking between now and May, that's for sure.
The Harper family have been breeding horses here at Whitsbury Manor Stud for well over 60 years. And in that time, they've stud some really good stallions such as Cadeau Genero and in more recent times, Havana Grey and Showcasing. Ed Harper is at the helm of the operation these days, and he tells us more about what goes on behind the running here at Whitsbury Manor. Was a career in the bloodstock industry always going to be on the cards for Ed Harper?
Absolutely not. I wasn't into ponies as a child. Probably overfaced by horses growing up, on the stud, and I wanted to go get myself a proper job, I guess, and went down the surveying route. Studied at university and got a job as a land agent for 3 years. Got my qualifications, but we bought Dad bought a new stallion. It was Saki's secret, actually, just as I got qualified as a surveyor, and I thought that looks exciting. I might come home and see where this takes me.
How would you describe a typical Whitsbury Manor Stud stallion?
Well, we had to start off with anything we could get our hands on. Dad was working away in the sort of 80s and early 90s where we couldn't be too fussy, just did the best we could. We stood all sorts. Now, because of the success we've had with the faster type of stallions, that's what we're known for, so that's a route we feel comfortable in. Not to say that we won't ever branch out to a miler. We've stood a couple of 2000 Guineas winners in the not too distant past. Mr. Bailey's broke the track record in the 2000 Guineas, and we had him for a couple of years, and Refused to Bend. Briefly, we had him standing on behalf of Darley. So we're not against doing that way around. It's just we seem to have had a lot more success with our speed horses. He's the reason we're still in the stallion game. Without him coming along when he did, I would say we'd be a quarter of the size we are, with a small broodmare band and no stallions. That's how important he's been to us. He was a success from the get-go. We took a big gamble buying 100% of him, but we never looked back. Now he's had 150 black type horses worldwide. He's had 7 sons at stud. He's had 2 winners of the Commonwealth Cup, 2 winners of the Sussex Stakes. He's a burgeoning broodmare sire. I've got a lot to thank him for.
He's your first stallion, Ed. What lessons did you learn from sourcing him and standing him? What has Showcasing taught you?
That's a good question. He's taught me to not listen to the noise, and if you believe in something, really go for it. There was a lot of reason people were telling me not to stand the stallion. He was a very good 2-year-old, but then had a minor injury in his 3-year-old career, which mean he didn't do a lot in his 3-year-old year. He also his main race was winning the Gym Crack, which I was told on multiple occasions hadn't produced a stallion of note since Mill Reef. So I was hearing a lot of no's, but luckily I'm quite a stubborn sort of person, and I thought, no, we'll ignore them and we'll go for it. And he's just been paying us back ever since.
You mentioned it earlier, but it shows how much it matters when the first runners and the first winners emerge for a new stallion. You mentioned earlier your dad and yourself were in the car roaring like lunatics listening to the radio.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a bit of a life lesson. The journey's more fun than the destination. Finding out that this guy was a proper stallion, you know, seeing the market catch on to him, going up through the rungs, you know, seeing the change, that was just so exciting. You know, we wouldn't change him for the world, but sort of being the established horse that we were wishing for, which he is now, it's easy to take that for granted. But he really is absolutely special. He's so useful to us, and I think you know, the next real string to his bow is he's going to be a gun broodmare sire. It's still early days for him, believe it or not. It takes a long time for the mares that he covered once he'd proven to be a good stallion, that elevated quality of mare, to start producing runners themselves. But they're just coming through now, and the early signs are brilliant.
Quiet Reflection, Lake Victoria.
Absolutely. Ain't Nobody nearly won the Nunthorpe. He was second last year. You know, and this is still early days. You know, Quiet Reflection was a second crop filly of Showcasing, so it's still very early days. But yeah, if you get the chance to keep hold of a Showcasing filly and breed from her, don't miss it.
For an older horse as well, he looks in amazing condition.
Yeah, Jacques and our other stallion manager, Bubba, do an amazing job. He is a very rare stallion in that he's as fertile as he's ever been. Last year, his statistics were as good as they were second year. The chiropractor that gives him the January makeover said he couldn't find a note out of tune in his whole back. He'll cover any mare we give him. Yeah, they broke the mold when they made Showcasing.
I would imagine sourcing horses for stallion purposes, it's a mixture of probably instinct and experience.
Yeah, we try not to give ourselves too many rules. I do hear a lot of rules bandied about. You know, he's got to be this, or he must be that, or he can't be that. We don't really go down that. Basically, our only rule is, are we excited to stand this stallion? You know, if we don't think, wow, if we got that horse, we'd really support him, we would properly send our nice mares to him. If the answer is, oh yeah, maybe we'd send him a couple of mares, but not her, she's a bit too special, then probably we're onto the wrong horse. So it's just the excitement factor that'll tell us whether we're onto something we really believe in.
And Ed, this is the star of the show, Havana Grey himself.
Yeah, he's the kingpin, got the mansion box. On a day like this, he's definitely happy to be inside.
Absolutely, it's a lovely box, goodness me. Ed, to the uninitiated, he's just a very good-looking, dapple grey horse. What makes Havana Grey so special?
Well, he's not the biggest. When you put him in a big stable, he looks even smaller, but it's what's between the eyes that really counts with Havana Grey. Obviously, he was a very good racehorse. He wasn't a champion, but he was a Group 1 winner. Won a Group 3, a Group 2, and a Group 1, in fact. So he was very, very good. But what sets him apart is his mentality. Now, that's the gamble we didn't know when we bought him. We liked the way he won his races, and I was fairly confident he had a good mentality, but I had no idea he's as tough as he is, and he passes that on to his offspring. They love work. They love work. They're not happy when they're just stood in a box. They want to be lunging, training, galloping, eating, racing. That's what they love, and it makes for winning machines.
It's interesting what you refer to as mentality, his brain, his temperament, because a lot of people get carried away, you know, stallions stamping their stock, getting good-looking stock, but it's as you said, it's what's between the ears that's every bit as important.
Yeah, people get carried away with sort of buying by the pound. For me, the three best stallions of the last 100 years, Northern Dancer, Hyperion, Dubawi, they're not very big. They weren't very big, and he's just the same. But he puts a big heart in, and he's a pleasure to have around. All our stallions have a door at the back of their stable, so that when we're not in here filming, the door's open and they can come and go as they please. It makes for very relaxed horses. He'll be out for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, just comes in for his grub. That's the one time when Havana Grey's not a nice horse, is when food's in his manger. So for 10 minutes, you just leave him alone. And he does pass that on to his stock as well. They really are protective eaters of their food. That's their time. You put the food in their manger and get out of the stable, and then you go and chat to them when they're done. So, but a horse that loves his food that much, you can put that much more work into them. They'll eat whatever you give them, and you can work them hard. And they're training and racing machines.
When did he first come up on your radar as a racehorse?
I mean, really, I like the way he won his maiden, etc., etc. But really, I was at Goodwood the day he won the Molecombe. It was one of those foul days that Goodwood has occasionally when the sea fret comes in. But this was wetter than wet. There was no one outside, and he just battled through the mud in hideous conditions. And I thought to myself, that is a tough mudlark. But then he went and won on rock hard ground somewhere else, and good to firm over there and good ground over here, and he just did it the same way, just stuck his nose out and battled all the time. And I just thought, wow, he wasn't just a mudlark, he was just a tough racehorse on a day like that. And yeah, I thought, yeah, this guy's one to keep an eye on.
In his new role now as a stallion, his statistics have been off the charts.
Yeah, it's phenomenal really. And the amazing thing is they haven't dipped, even though maybe the quality of his books dipped in years 2, 3, 4, which is usually the case with commercial stallions. Once the shiny pizzazz of a first crop of mares runs out, your second, third, fourth books usually aren't quite as good.
Tricky second album.
Absolutely. But he paid no attention to that. He just kept pumping out the good horses. Last year was his last cheaply bred crop of 2-year-olds. He got 15 black type horses. That's almost unheard of. Only Wootton Bassett globally had more, and that was only one more. He had 16. So for a horse whose average nomination fee that year would have been about 5,000, and he was top of the pot. So it's incredible what he does.
It's not every sort of mare he can cover. Have you had to restrict the mares that he's covered over the last number of seasons?
Yeah, so he's 15.2, and he's short-legged with a big barrel chest on him, and just the way he's built, he struggles to cover the bigger mares in the covering shed. And we noticed that his fertility wasn't as good on those bigger mares because he wasn't giving them a proper cover in the shed. And so 2 years ago, we decided we'd put a limit of 16 hands on the mares we'd accept for him, and that's really helped him. His fertility for the last 2 years has been fantastic, and he's just too important for us not to really look after. So we're going to stick with that recipe, and everyone's very happy with it. So our first concern is standing stallions that allow our clients to certainly our commercial clients, which are the bulk of our clients, to make a profit when they're selling their horses. So we're trying to set fees to our stallions that will allow that. Pleased to say that we had a lot of very happy clients this year selling their stock by our stallions, and long may that continue. It's not about, you know, screwing the best bit of the deal for now. It's about what can keep this client going so they can be a client long into the future.
How do you go about sourcing a stallion, finding a stallion, buying a stallion? I would imagine it's pretty tough.
It's the hardest bit of the game. It's every man for himself. We're never not looking, you know, even when we've got stallions. We've got 4 stallions here at the moment. I'm very happy with them, but it's always a bit of a mental exercise. You got to keep looking, so when the right one comes along, you don't miss it. But because it's stallions aren't sold through auction. There's usually a more complicated contract than just a hammer coming down. So therefore, it's nearly always done privately. And you just got to ask the right people at the right time. We get it wrong all the time. You know, we've had some conversations where you're told, you know, absolutely no, and and you just got to have a bit of a thick skin. But it's about building relationships, you know, being fair, not trying to bite off more than a fair deal, and putting your case together. And we have lots of examples of missing ones that have been successful, and similarly, thankfully, we've missed ones we wanted that haven't gone and done it. So we tend not to look back, just look forward, and just see what the next step is.
We've moved to the next door stallion box. This is Elite Status, who is a son of Havana Grey and was trained by Carl Burke. Ed, this fellow was very fast, very good 2-year-old. Obviously, we know all about his stallion Havana Grey, and we know all about what Carl Burke can do as well.
Yeah, I mean, he went through the foal sales and the yearling sales, and really was the talking horse at both of them. It was a stunning foal, and went on to be an even better looking yearling that Carl and Kelly signed for a big ticket at 325,000 guineas. And he was one of those horses that the word was out very early. He debuted at Doncaster and won pulling a cart. On the day Chaldean won the 2,000 guineas, actually, who we also bred. So that was a good day for us, and we cheered him home, and then he won the national stakes at Sandown in similar fashion. My phone's never been so busy as when he absolutely charged home in the national stakes, and I had friends saying, what on earth was that? So he's been special from early doors.
And I would imagine since retiring here, he has essentially sold himself to breeders.
Yeah, absolutely. We've never had a horse fill up so fast. By Christmas, we were on the number or not far off where we wanted to be. So it's a case of shaping his book now on which mares we send him as well. There's a little bit of manoeuvrability, but not a lot, because we do try and limit our stallions to around about the 150 mark, so that our clients know about where we're going to be numbers wise. And yeah, we couldn't be happier how we're going. Havana Grey was so helpful to our clients in the early days. Getting good results for our clients that they're happy to row into a good-looking son of his.
Havana Grey and Showcasing, and of course Dragon Symbol, they've had plenty of practice at being stallions. So how do you take a horse like Elite Status, who's never covered a mare, and teach them all the rudimentary techniques that they need to know for the next career?
So settling him in is important. First of all, it's a small stallion unit we have here, and some of the stallions, particularly Showcasing, is quite territorial. So just even on arrival, he will be informed by a couple of the other stallions that he is the new kid on the blocks. Showcasing would have a few roars at him. So just settling him in gently so he knows that he's safe is the first thing to do. Then he's keeping up his fitness. So we don't want to let them down too much and have him lose his fitness. He's going to be a busy boy from the get-go of the covering season. He's going to be busy straight away, and so we want him to be able to deal. It's a very physical process in the covering shed. So keeping up his fitness is good. We will introduce him to a couple of test mares before the season starts proper. That's older barren mares that we don't necessarily need to have a foal from, that he can learn the ropes. Some stallions get it quicker than others. So, funnily enough, we found in the past that the closer coupled, smaller nuggety horses are a bit more balanced in their first efforts in the covering shed than the bigger 16 one and a bit horses that tend to stagger all over the place. I'm not the world's best watcher to begin with, but if he's anything like his dad, he'll take to it pretty quickly.
He's a lucky boy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a lucky boy. We will limit him to 3 coverings a day, so that we don't overdo him. All being well fertility wise. the season should be straightforward. But he's got some very nice mares coming to him, so he's got every chance.
And you must be excited to have a son of Havana Grey here. It must mean quite a bit. A horse who was conceived just up the yard, has been to Middleham and has won some proper races, and to have him back here at Whitsbury Manor must be really nice.
Yeah, it's really full circle. We've got so many mares that have bred good runners by Havana Grey that just are no-brainers to send to him to try and duplicate the cross. And now Havana Grey is out of reach price-wise of a lot of our clients. It makes sense to provide them with a more affordable option. And we've never actually stood a son and a sire at the same time here at Witsbury, so it's breaking new ground for us.
From the storied heritage of the stallion yard at Whitsbury Manor Stud, the focus now returns to the next generation of young horses and the all-important marketplace where dreams are bought and sold. Emma, the European sales season got off to its traditional start back in August with the Arcana August yearling sale in the picturesque Deauville. It seems like a long time ago now, but it definitely set the scene for what was to come later in the season.
It did indeed, and everyone gets terribly excited because, as you say, it's Deauville and it's all very glamorous and lovely, and it's the first one of a long season. And I think there's probably quite a sense of relief, I would imagine, in the Arcana camp this year, because it was a very good sale. It picked up again from a sort of flatter start in 2024. So it really set the tone for what was to come, both here and in America. I mean, right the way through, we've seen some very strong sales. But yes, plenty of action back in Arcana in August. We were all wondering after last year whether Ammo Racing and Joorabchian would be back and spending at that same level, and they showed their hand pretty early at Arcana and bought the top lot. And yeah, well, they are now one of the key big buyers, along with the buyers that we've become used to seeing, such as obviously Coolmore and Sheikh Mohammed's Dali Godolphin operation.
Leading vendor again this year was Monceau, and Henri Bozo and his team, they do such a great job.
Yeah, he's really, sort of taken the sales scene, by the scruff of its neck in France, and has been, as you say, leading vendor for what seems like forever now at that sale. They only sell their horses in France, so if you want to buy a Monceau horse, you have to go to Arcana, and they only sell stock reared on their farm. So Henri Bozo, who runs Écu de Monceau extremely well, has a lot of partners involved as well, but he can hand on his heart say, I've had these horses right the way through, and here we are standing by them, consigning them as yearlings here in Arcana, and yeah, they've done very well by that. They have some very prominent partners involved, and they breed some extremely good stock by very good stallions.
Then we had the Goffs Orby sale, books 1 and book 2, over 4 days, and I think the big story from that sale, Emma, was the return of Joorabchian's Ammo Racing. They hadn't been really active at Goffs for a few years. They were back and they made their presence count.
Yeah, they did, as they have been doing for a couple of years now. And I'm sure Henry Beebe and his team were delighted to welcome them back. And again, to see, we had plenty of Americans at Goffs too, and buyers from all over the place. It's Ireland's premier yearling sale, and the greatest advertisement they could have had this year is Minnie Hawk, who's been just, the standout 3-year-old filly. So, she was the top price there a couple of years ago, and to see that level of horse come out from there will have helped everyone. And yeah, you're always finding some really nicely bred individuals there.
Last year we bought quite a few later developing horses. This year we did a very big balance. That's why we're here in presence in book 2, and we were at, we had a big presence at Goffs, obviously, and at Keeneland. So, we've tried to balance it out this year as well, and I think we're going to have a very substantially, strong squad going forward for the next couple of years now. Sales have been obviously very good. I thought the sales were a bit, let's say, choppy. Day one was, a lot of big priced items where, you clash with the big guys. If you clash with Coolmore or Godolphin or Juddmonte or that kind of level, then you end up paying up, quite a high price. And then sort of the middle market was a little bit sort of more, hit and miss. It was more about if somebody really liked the horse, it was a middle market, and if Coolmore, Godolphin, Juddmonte people were not on it, it was easier to probably purchase them. And I think we got, a very good mix of stock this year across America and here, and we continue to build. The speedier type of horses have obviously always been our sort of trademark. We love that, Bucaneros and so on, but we now do have a lot more staying horses, and I think people forget that King of Steel came second in the Derby. That was the slowest day. Mojo Star came second in the Derby, So we've had quite a big balance there, although they've always come second, and the ones that have won have been the ones that have been the speedier ones. But King of Steel won Champions Day, and so I think that the idea for us is, continue to keep going forward in that way. Our homebred horses are starting to come out now. Persian Forces, yearlings, seem to be very beautiful in look-wise, so hopefully they can perform that on the racetrack, and then we'll see how we go.
How much are you enjoying having stallions and more stallions coming on stream?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait. I'm so excited about Persian Force, watching him have his first runners, and I'm even more excited about King of Steel. We really want to support our stallions. Hopefully these stallions will start to come to fruition.
Just every time I see you've got a great team around you, and it just seems the team dynamic, it all seems to work quite well.
Yeah, the team's been there for quite a while now. We've had a good team around us, and the guys are just, you can't not have fun. I say to the guys, we have to have fun. We have to enjoy what we're doing. Otherwise, it's just going to be an awful, it's an awfully boring stuff if you don't enjoy it. So we always try to go to any sale and any event, and we try to enjoy it no matter what happens, and we'll start making some impact.
When you're bidding on those really expensive horses, when you see you're up against an Anthony Stroud or an MV Magna or the team from Juddmonte and so on, does that frustrate you, or does it give you a bit of confidence that you're on the right horse? Well, I mean, from a psychological point of view, what's it like?
I don't think that gives you confidence you're on the right horse, because, obviously they can make mistakes as well. We can obviously make a lot of mistakes. I think what it does is, when you see them on a horse and you're on a horse, it's probably good for the market, really, because the market then lifts up and gets a bit of a buzz out of it. But we just feel like, oh God, we're going to have to pay a lot more now.
And then the big one, I guess, Tattersalls, book one of their October yearling sales. It had been an absolute gangbuster of a sale last year, and I guess expectations were high coming into this year. What did you make of trade over those 3 days?
Again, I'd say when you're setting it against last year, it's almost impossible to follow that. It was an extraordinary sale, and sales veterans were walking around Park Paddocks here last year, sort of rolling their eyes, going, "Oh my God, I've never seen anything like this." So that was always going to be very hard to stand up to. That said, it was still a very, the sort of all the metrics weren't far beyond that for the sale, and certainly compared to the previous 2 years, it compared very well. It was, I think, their second best sale ever. You had the two most expensive yearlings sold anywhere in the world here at Tattersalls, in book one. So yeah, very strong level. Again, massive international support. It's driven by 2 or 3 or 4 key big buyers, and of course there are significant spenders underneath that. But when you start to look at the outlay from Ammo Racing and from Godolphin in particular, they account for a huge portion of book one yearlings sold. And then, of course, Coolmore, regular supporters, other big spenders as well. But really, they rely very heavily on those big entities, and they stepped up again. And I think Godolphin bought the Sail Topper, a lovely See the Stars colt related to Crystal Ocean, and then Ammo Racing bought the full brother to the filly that topped the sale for them last year by Franco out of Al-Jazzi. So we wait to see what all these lovely horses can do on the track for them.
Pinhooking is the speculative and high-risk practice of purchasing young livestock, most commonly thoroughbred horses, with the specific intent of reselling them at a later date, hopefully for a profit. Step forward plucky investor Fergal Hogan, who spent €120,000 on a St Mark's Basilica colt in November 2024. 11 months later, he would be rewarded with a massive return at Park Paddocks. Was the stallion sort of the main credential when you were looking at the foal that made you like him so much?
I looked at all of St Mark's Basilica's foals at the sales, and I genuinely thought he was the best one in Goffs, so we kind of put a plan together to try buy him, and lucky enough we got him, so that's what happened.
So you got him back home.
Yeah.
How long was he at your farm, Fergal?
He was at my farm until 10 weeks before the sale, so I had him the whole way through, and then I sent him to Pa Dial's Galberstown stables. He preps most of my expensive yearlings, and as always he just done a fantastic job with him, so I was delighted, yeah.
And of course in the weeks running up to Book 1 as well, the results were beginning to gather a pace for St Mark's Basilica. You can't beat a bit of recency bias. He'd had his big filly diamond necklace and 15 or 16 individual winners as well, and not just winners, Fergal, good calibre horses too.
Yeah, good calibre horse, Bernard. I'd never missed one of his runners. I tracked him. I could name every one of his winners. It was slow to get going.
Were you getting nervous?
I was. Aidan said after one of his horses won one day, a maiden, like, I don't think St Mark's Basilica won his own maiden as a 2-year-old until very late in the season, so if he stock followed him, they were kind of on the same pathway as him, and as the further the season went on, the more quality maidens that he won. So yeah, I was delighted with the way it ended up in the end for him, you know.
So going into the sales day itself and going into the ring, did you realise just how popular your fellow was?
He was very popular, Bernard. Even Paz consigning horses for years, and we had 20 vets, but over 20 vets. We've never seen anything like it on a horse, you know. There was loads of people at kind of 2 and 3 and 400,000, but after that we didn't know how far we could go, you know, and then we were lucky to fall on Amo and Richard Brown underbid him, so I want to thank two of them a lot for helping me along the way.
And it's amazing when you've got big players like that who are bidding on a horse. I mean, the sky really is the limit. The rubber hits the road.
Yeah, the sky is the limit, Bernard, and it was unbelievable. It was a day I'll never forget anyway. Never forget.
So what does this mean now for Fergal Hogan for the future?
It means just maybe might try buy a property. I rent a farm on the Curragh, so maybe try buying my own place and obviously reinvest a good bit of the money, but I want to try get set up for life that I can plan on where I want to go and what I want to do, but I'll definitely be reinvesting at the foal sales anyway, that's one thing for sure.
As the hammer falls at Tattersalls, our journey continues to Duke Stud, home to the breeders of Gewan, recently crowned European Champion Juvenile for 2025. Emma Berry takes up the reins.
It's one of the most notorious graduates from the farm in the very recent history is Gewan, winner of the Juha Stakes and one of the favourites for this year's 2,000 guineas, which I'm sure, as a Newmarket man, must give you an immense sense of pride to have bred him with your great friend Simon Sweeting of Overbury Stud.
Well, my great friend Simon and I, it had been a long time coming, but we got there in the end. But wouldn't it be a dream if he could go on and do something special this year? Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, especially for me being in Newmarket, but really just for Simon and I to breed a horse like that, and it's owned locally. And all the dreams are still in front of us. So there'll be a lot of box walking between now and May, that's for sure.
Yes, you're counting down the days to the guineas.
God, I just want it to be tomorrow.
I can imagine. Just can you sort of remember? Obviously, you sold him as a yearling, and he went back through the breeze up sales as well. But I know he was born here. Can you remember what he was like as a foal?
Yeah, very straightforward foal. We were always wanted to sell him as a foal, but he had a bit of a setback. And then Simon put him through the ring, and he failed his x-rays to Hong Kong, so he didn't make probably quite as much as we would have liked. And then he was obviously resold at the French Breeze Ups. But very likeable foal, you know, typical of Issar, really. You know, you can't really tell at that age what was going to happen. But, you know, his mother's very good looking. So she tends to drop nice foals.
I remember just after he won the Dewhurst Stakes talking to Simon at the sales about him, and very modestly like you, he sort of took the view that, you know, you two in partnership have a number of mares and you've probably been involved in that pursuit for sort of 25 years or so. And so he said, oh, if you throw enough mud at the wall, some of it's going to stick. I mean, that is a very modest view to take. But that's breeding, really, isn't it? You have to see the long game and be patient.
I think, funny enough, that was my saying. I think, well, you know, we would choose some good luck at some stage, having been doing this for a long time. We have a great relationship. We're very good friends and have been for a very long time. It works so well. Some mares are at Overbury, some mares are at Duke Stud. Depending on what stallions they're going to visit, we could have more, he could have more, or they might be going off to France or Ireland or what have you. But you know, it just makes you think, gosh, it's worthwhile.
Absolutely, and of course, it wasn't just Gewan. Last year as well, Havana Anna, second in the Cheveley Park Stakes, and a listed winner for Donncha O'Brien. That's also your partnership breeding, so a terrific.
And you know, I hope Donncha has a fun year with her this year. I mean, I wouldn't say that was unexpected, but it was topped off a really nice year on the track for us, and it sort of makes you think we're doing something right after all.
So here she is, the lady in question, Grey Mister.
Absolutely.
Just tell me a little bit about how long she's been here and a bit of her background. Really.
Well, Richard Brown bought her at Arcana in foal to Two Dunhop. We do a lot for Richard and we're very thankful for all he does for us, so Simon and I are very indebted. So we bought her a little while ago, but she's a young mare. As you know, she had that lovely foal last year. She doesn't have a yearling. The yearling died, sadly. So she's barren. So she will be off to Ireland this week, weather permitting. She was supposed to go last week, but the ferries were all cancelled. And she will be going fairly obviously to Night of Thunder.
Absolutely, that was probably the easiest mating you had to plan.
It didn't take a
this year, but no, I mean, she's done you proud already. It's exciting to have a young mare who's already a Group 1 producer.
Yeah.
And
that's all you could wish for.
Behaving beautifully for Arthur as well. I spoke too soon. But yes, so she's, as you say, not in foal, but back over to the champion sire, Night of Thunder, which is very exciting.
No, we're very lucky. We got a slot, so she'll be off. Get her hopefully in foal, and she can stay there till she's 42 days odd in foal, and then she'll either come back here or go to Overbury, or let's just get her in foal first.
Yes, exactly. make the plans later. I mean, I suppose in some respects it's unfortunate to have a year without a foal, but the fact she's not in foal makes the travel plans a little bit easier.
It happens. It's not the end of the world. It means that she can go over to Ireland nice and early, and she can get bred nice and early. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes Mother Nature intervenes. The foal was late, so you know she had to skip a year. But you know, it's not the end of the world.
Absolutely, and you know, Night of Thunder, as we've said, is the champion sire now.
Absolutely. I mean, last season, every time I picked up the Racing Post, he was producing another group horse, or listed horse. I mean, he's just quite incredible.
He has, and you've obviously contributed to that record for him last year.
Well,
and
only a little bit.
But we all know that these successful stallions are then immensely popular with breeders.
They are.
And there's a limit to the number of mares a stallion can cover in a season. I guess when you've got a Group 1 winner by him, it's easier for you to ring up Darley and say, well, we'd like to come back. But
I mean, yes, you'd like to think so. You know, you dread the phone call and them saying no. But I think if you've got a Dewhurst winner by Night of Thunder, you know, Darley would presumably be quite happy to take her back, and you know, let's try and get something special out of her by the same stallion.
So that concludes the first ever episode of the Bloodstock Files, and a big thank you to everyone who has spoken to us. The 2026 breeding season is just around the corner. It'll be foaled in our next show.